I used to sleep with the bathroom door closed, always have. It's just something I picked up as a kid. Maybe a habit, maybe a boundary. I never thought much about it until I moved into this apartment in downtown Detroit. Top floor, old brick building from the 1950s, worn out elevators, cracked tiles in the hallway. But the place had charm. And the rent? Too good to be true. The agent barely looked me in the eye when I asked why it was so cheap. "Owner wants it rented fast," she said. I should have taken that as a sign, but I didn't. I just smiled, signed the papers, and told myself this was finally the fresh start I needed. The apartment was small but bright. One bedroom, creaky floors, chipped paint on the radiator, but nothing I couldn't live with. For the first time in years, I had a place to myself. No roommates, no noise. And that's what hit me first. The quiet. It wasn't just peaceful, it was absolute. I didn't hear the neighbors. Not above, not next door. No footsteps in the hallway, no doors slamming, no late-night TVs echoing through the walls. At first, I loved it. I thought it was lucky, a perfect little bubble of silence in the middle of the city. But silence can start to feel like a trap when you realize you're not the only one listening. It began with the bathroom door. I'd go to bed, door closed, always, and wake up to find it open. Just slightly, maybe a few inches. I assumed I forgot. We all do that, right? Get distracted, leave something undone. So I started paying attention, closing it deliberately, then even locking it. But still, every morning, it was open, just like before. That's when I started noticing other things, small things. The kitchen chair pushed back from the table, my TV remote on the wrong side of the couch, the bathroom curtain drawn halfway. I never left it like that. At first I laughed it off. Maybe I was just tired, maybe the stress of moving. But something deeper in me, something quiet and buried, knew better. One morning, I went to brush my hair before work and felt something strange. My brush was wet, not damp, soaked. The sink had water droplets around the rim, the faucet dripping steadily, like someone had just used it. And the mirror. There was condensation, like steam had rolled through the bathroom. But I hadn't taken a shower that morning. I hadn't even turned on the hot water. I stood there for a long time, staring into that fogged-up mirror, waiting for something to move behind me. I didn't see anything that day, but I felt it. Like I was no longer alone in the room. That night I left work early. I didn't want to be out after dark. Didn't want to come back and find something different. I locked the bathroom door again, sat on the couch, tried to read, tried to stay awake. But around 2:30 a.m., I woke up. Not to a sound, to a feeling. The air was thick, damp, heavy, and then I heard it. The shh of water. I froze. The shower was running. I knew that sound. It echoed through the pipes, through the air, through my chest. I stood up. My legs didn't want to move, but I forced them, walked through the hallway with the lights off, just the dull glow from the bathroom door spilling out into the dark. When I stepped in, the steam hit me hard, thick, wet, metallic. The shower curtain was pulled open. The water blasted from the faucet like it had been left there for hours, and the mirror completely fogged. No reflection, just an opaque, trembling surface. I reached out and turned the knob. The water stopped, but the air didn't clear. I backed out without turning around. I didn't want to see anything through the mist. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I sat in the living room, lights on, eyes open, listening. The next night, there were no rides available. The app kept freezing. I thought about sleeping at a friend's place, but I was too tired. I stayed, and I locked the bathroom again, double-checked every window, dragged a chair in front of the front door. Not sure why, but it made me feel better. Around 3:17 a.m., I woke up to a shift in the mattress, a soft, subtle pressure near my hip, as if someone had just laid down next to me. I didn't move. My breath caught in my throat, and in that pause, that stillness, I felt it, Whatever was next to me was holding its breath too, matching mine, mirroring me down to the last second. Then the sound came back, the shower turning on by itself. I could hear the droplets hitting tile, echoing faintly through the wall. Then came the footsteps, wet, dragging, like someone walking barefoot down the hall, dripping across the floor. I wanted to scream, I wanted to run, but my body wouldn't respond. I was stuck, frozen in that bed, waiting for something to crawl in beside me. I couldn't move. My eyes were wide open, but my arms felt like stone. And whatever was beside me, it knew. Every shallow breath I took, it matched, like it was learning my rhythm, syncing itself to me. There was no doubt now. This thing, it wasn't just visiting the apartment. It lived here, and I'd been the guest all along. I forced myself to shift slightly, just enough to feel the weight on the mattress dip in response. Not like a falling object, but like a body, heavy, slow, deliberate. The air was thicker now, wet, warm, almost humid, like the bathroom had followed me into the bedroom. Then the water stopped, that familiar click of the shower knob turning, all by itself, followed by silence, for just a beat. Until the steps came back, slap, drag, slap, drag. Wet feet, one after the other, pacing from the bathroom toward the hallway. I could hear it moving across the wooden floor, brushing against walls, as if searching, or listening. And then it stopped right outside my door. I could hear the drip, drip, drip of water hitting the hardwood. I didn't dare turn, but I could feel it. Not behind me, not beside me anymore. Standing there, waiting, deciding. The air around me shifted again, and then I felt it. A whisper, inches from my neck, a change in temperature. Not cold like wind, but cold like breath. Something exhaling, steady, slow, and far too close. I clenched my jaw, my hands were shaking beneath the covers. My heart beat so hard it felt like it echoed against the walls. I kept my eyes shut. I kept still. But it wasn't enough. The bed shifted again, just slightly, like something getting up. The mattress creaked under its weight. I heard it step away, but the wet prints, they never touched the floor. Eventually, the sounds stopped. Not all at once, but gradually. The steps faded. The humidity lifted. I lay there, unmoving, for what felt like hours. And then the bathroom door creaked open. I didn't see it. I didn't need to. I heard it. That long, slow groan of swollen wood and rusted hinges. I closed my eyes tighter, clutching the blanket to my chest like it could hold me in one piece. But I could feel it. The shift in pressure, the air changing temperature. It wasn't over. It had just stepped back, giving me one final message. When I finally got up, I don't know what time it was, I stumbled toward the front door. My hands shook so badly I couldn't fit the key in the lock. That's when I heard it. The faucet shut off. The silence that followed was thicker than before, heavier. And then, the mirror. I turned my head just slightly, just enough to catch the hallway. The bathroom door was wide open now, the mirror still fogged, still dripping, and in the center of the condensation was a handprint. Perfect, fresh. Sliding slowly down the glass, I didn't wait for it to fade. I didn't breathe. I grabbed my bag, twisted the lock, and ran. I didn't even close the door behind me. I just ran. Down 8 flights of stairs, out into the street. No shoes, no jacket. I didn't care. I didn't stop until I reached the corner gas station and sat under the buzzing light by the vending machines, shaking so hard I couldn't even speak when the clerk asked if I was okay. The next morning I came back with a friend. We packed what we could carry. I didn't go in alone. I never stepped into that bathroom again. Later, a neighbor, older guy, maybe in his 60s, saw me loading my trunk and asked if I was moving out already. I said yes, I couldn't sleep. He just nodded, like he'd heard it before. Then he said something I still don't know how to process. That apartment used to belong to a man who died alone in the shower. Took them days to find him. It's been remodeled a few times since. People don't stay long. He paused, then added, "You're not the first to run, but you were lucky enough to leave?" I was just trying to make ends meet. Took a gig as a night janitor in an old building near Ironbound, Newark. The kind of place with dusty carpets, elevator buttons that stick, and hallway lights that hum just loud enough to get in your head. But it paid well. No tenants to deal with after dark, just rounds every hour and keeping the boiler from coughing itself to death. Easy work, honestly, or it should have been. Until they told me the rules. Most of them were basic. Check the garbage chute, reset the laundry timers, keep the front gate locked after midnight. Then the building manager, older guy named Torres, handed me one last key and said, without even blinking, "Don't open 705. Don't lock it all the way. And if someone calls from there, let it ring." I waited for him to laugh. He didn't. It was the way he looked at me, like he was waiting to see if I'd walk out right then and there. I didn't. I needed the job. And besides, it's just an apartment, right? The first night was uneventful. Just long corridors and the soft whir of old machinery doing its best to stay alive. Most tenants were quiet. A few lights left on, the occasional TV flicker behind thin curtains. But when I reached the 7th floor, everything felt different. Still, but not peaceful. The light above the stairwell buzzed so faintly it almost sounded like breathing. At the far end of the hall, tucked into a crooked corner, was 705. Dust on the doorknob. A dent in the frame like someone had once tried to force it open. The lock was odd. Double bolt, but always clicked to the middle. Not quite shut, not quite open. I didn't like the way the air felt in that part of the hallway. Thick, like it had weight, like it remembered things. My second night on the job felt easier. I brought headphones, tried to zone out. Most of the shift was spent checking boiler pressure and waiting for the hours to pass. But that 7th floor, it stayed with me. Every time I had to do rounds up there, something felt off. Not dangerous, not exactly, just wrong. Like the space didn't like being observed. The lights flickered more often. The hallway never cooled down, even when the rest of the building was freezing from broken vents. It always smelled faintly like old flowers, not fresh ones, the kind you find weeks after a funeral. 705 was always in the same state. Door closed, bolt in the middle, untouched. I never heard anything from inside, never saw movement, but it felt occupied. That's the best way I can describe it. Like someone lived there, just not in any way that made sense. One night I noticed a thin envelope tucked into the crack beneath the door. I left it there. The next night, it was gone. Another time, a small toy car, the kind you see in gas stations, rolled out from under the frame while I was mopping the hallway. I stared at it for a while, kicked it back toward the door. Didn't hear it hit anything, just vanished into the dark. After a few nights, I started asking around. Most of the older tenants avoided the question, waved me off with that same tired look, like they'd been through this before. But one lady, maybe in her 80s, stopped me in the lobby and said, "You're working the 7th floor?" I nodded. She just sighed. "Keep your eyes down by that apartment, and don't answer if she calls." I asked her who. She just looked at me and said, "She's still looking for him." The first time I heard the voice, I thought it was coming from a TV left on in another unit. It was soft, raspy, like someone who'd been crying for too long. I was doing my last round before sunrise, 4:17 a.m. When I passed the top of the stairwell and heard it, "Son, are you there?" It froze me mid-step. Just 5 words, floating down the hallway like they had nowhere else to go. It wasn't a shout. It wasn't urgent. It sounded tired, familiar, like something said 100 times before, and never answered. I walked slowly toward 705. The voice had come from behind the door. I was sure of it. The hall was still, too still. No TV sounds, no footsteps, just the hum of the old emergency light and the stale scent of dust and age. I stood in front of the door and waited. Nothing. The peephole was dark. I thought maybe someone had broken in, or maybe a tenant was staying there illegally. I radioed Torres, no answer. I reached for the bolt, but didn't touch it. Just stood there, hand out, listening to my own breath. Then the voice came again, this time quieter, closer. Please, answer me. That was enough. I stepped back, left the floor, sat in the basement for the rest of my shift, pretending I didn't hear it, pretending it wasn't real. But the next night I found the lock tampered with, just slightly, like someone inside had tried to push it open, and then stopped. A few days later, one of the older residents, man in his 70s, called me over after his laundry, asked if I'd heard her yet. I didn't say anything. He nodded anyway, like he already knew. She lost her boy. Little thing, fell from the window, way back. She'd knock on doors every night asking if anyone saw him. One night she just stopped coming out. Some say she moved, others say she didn't. Apartment's been empty ever since, but the line never got disconnected. I asked what he meant. He looked me dead in the eyes. That phone in 705, it still rings, and someone still picks up. 3 nights after I heard the voice, the system pinged. Motion sensor tripped on the 7th floor. 3:41 a.m. I remember the time because it didn't make sense. No one had gone up. No elevator activity. No security doors opened. Just that quiet alert. Like something had moved without permission. I climbed the stairs slowly, flashlight in one hand, the master key in the other. The hallway was darker than usual. One of the bulbs had gone out. The air felt heavier. Not hot, just dense. Like stepping into a memory that hadn't been touched in years. When I reached 705, I stopped walking. The door was cracked open, not wide, just enough for the lock to dangle loose in its latch. The bolt had been undone from the inside. I know that because I checked it the night before. Double latched, fully secured, and now it was just hanging there. The hallway behind me was silent. No draft, no tenants awake, just me, and whatever had opened that door. I pushed gently. The hinges didn't creak. They exhaled. That's the only way I can describe it. Like the apartment was tired of holding its breath. Inside it smelled like mildew and wood polish, and something older. The curtains were drawn. The carpet was sun-faded in rectangles where furniture used to sit, and near the far wall beneath an old rotary phone bolted to the plaster. A thin line of dust where the receiver had been recently. The phone itself was off the hook, just resting there. Quiet. That's when I heard it. Small footsteps behind me. Not heavy, not adult. Like a child running barefoot down the hallway. Quick, unsteady. I spun around. Nothing. The corridor was empty. But the light at the end flickered, just once, like it had caught the edge of someone's shadow. I stepped out of the apartment and closed the door behind me. Not fully. Just enough to leave it how I found it. When I got back to the lobby, my hands were shaking so badly I dropped the clipboard. Torres called me the next day, said he saw the alert in the system. I told him what happened. He was quiet for a long time, then just said, "You didn't speak to her, right?" I said no. He exhaled, not with relief, but with that tired weight again. "Then you're still okay." I gave my notice the next morning. Torres didn't ask why. Maybe he already knew. I worked the rest of the week during the day, just light repairs, mail deliveries, nothing upstairs. I didn't go back to the 7th floor. I avoided looking at the cameras. I didn't want to see what might still be moving after dark. But on my last shift, something pulled me back. I don't know why. Maybe curiosity, maybe guilt, or maybe she just wanted someone to listen. It was just after 6 p.m., right before my replacement showed up. I took the key one last time, climbed the 7 flights, slowly. The hallway looked the same flickering light, same still air. But this time, the door was shut, fully latched. I stood there for a moment. then said, barely above a whisper, "Mrs. Lucia, your son isn't here anymore." And the building held its breath. The hallway felt like it collapsed in on itself, a silence so deep it hummed. No creaks, no buzzing light, no air at all. And then the phone inside began to ring. I didn't open the door. I didn't move. But I heard the phone, that old analog tone, distant and shrill, ringing through the door like it hadn't rung in years. And just behind me, a breath. Not mine, not human, cold, wet, close. I turned my head just slightly, nothing there. But I felt it, like something had leaned in to hear my answer. I ran. I left the key in the lock, took the stairs 3 at a time, didn't stop until I was outside and 3 blocks away. That night, back home, I got a message from an unknown number. No name, no text. Just one sentence. "You never should have spoken to her." I lived on the top floor, 6th level of an old apartment building in South Loop, Chicago. Place was built in the 60s. Original wood floors, heavy windows that didn't quite seal, yellow light fixtures that buzzed when it got too cold. But it was quiet. No one above me. No overhead noise. No neighbors stomping around at night. That's what I liked about it. That's what sold me. The first night I moved in, I stood in the middle of the living room and just listened. Not a sound. No traffic, no elevator hum, no voices through the walls. Just silence. And it felt good. After years of sharing spaces, couches, corners of other people's lives, this one was mine. Clean. Empty. Quiet. But that's the thing. It was too quiet. The layout was strange. Long hallway from the front door, kitchen tucked into a narrow corner. No windows in the hallway. Just a large wall-mounted mirror built into the plaster like it had always been there. I remember thinking that was weird. Permanent mirrors aren't common in apartments, but I didn't care. I liked the light it reflected. Gave the place some depth. That first week everything felt normal. No issues, no strange neighbors, nothing broken. But by the 3rd night I noticed a water stain forming on the kitchen ceiling, right above the counter. A soft brown ring. Subtle, but spreading. I figured it was plumbing from the unit above. But when I called the building office, the woman on the phone just said, "There's no one above you. That's the roof." I tried not to overthink the ceiling. It was an old building, after all. Pipes leak, heat rises. Maybe something had cracked under the rooftop units. HVAC stuff, maybe. But the stain got worse. I'd cover it with tape just to track how far it spread. Every day it crept a little more. The color deepened. Not just brown, grayish, sometimes almost green. One morning I noticed the surface pulsing ever so slightly, like there was pressure behind it. I reached up and felt the plaster, soft, damp, still warm. I called the office again. A different guy this time, told him what was happening. He paused, then said, "Yeah, that unit's always had roof problems. We'll send someone next week." But no one came, and the calls stopped going through after that. Besides the ceiling, the place was quiet, still unnervingly so. I could hear the distant elevator sometimes, but no doors opening, no voices in the hallway, not even foot traffic above me, which made sense. Right? Top floor, nothing up there but the roof. But that's what started eating at me. There were footsteps, always around 2 or 3 a.m., soft at first, like someone pacing slowly. Sometimes I'd hear something heavier, like dragging. Other nights, short, sharp thuds, like something landing hard then going still. I went up the fire escape once, just to prove to myself there was nothing there. The rooftop access door had a heavy, rusted chain around the handle. A padlock so corroded I couldn't read the brand. No signs of tampering, no signs of life. But standing on the metal stairs, looking up at that 6th floor window, I could have sworn I saw something behind the glass. Not a person, just the absence of light. A shape where light should have been. That night I started sleeping with the hallway light on. The footsteps didn't stop. Every night, Same time, same rhythm. I'd lie in bed staring at the ceiling, counting them, slow, deliberate steps across the roof. There were no animals, no access, and still, they walked. Some nights it sounded like something being dragged. Other times I heard a soft thump, like someone jumping, landing just above my head, always above me, always between 2:12 and 3 a.m. The water stain kept growing. I stopped covering it. One night I found a faint drip on the countertop, dark, almost black. It didn't smell like water, more like rust and something else. Like wet wood and skin. I wiped it with a paper towel. It left a faint gray streak across the counter that wouldn't come off no matter how much I scrubbed. Then came the mirror. I'd walk past it dozens of times a day. It became part of the apartment, like a hallway light you stop noticing. But then, it started to change. I'd glance at it on the way to the kitchen and feel like it was just a split second behind. Not slow, not obvious, just off. My reflection moved, but not quite with me. I tested it one night, waved slowly. It followed, almost perfectly. Almost. But when I turned away, I thought I saw it hesitate, like it wanted to keep watching. A few days later, after the ceiling dripped again, I covered the mirror with an old towel. I couldn't look at it anymore. The hallway felt colder when I passed by, like walking through a pocket of air that didn't belong to the rest of the apartment. The footsteps came back that night, louder than ever, closer, right above the hallway. At 3:06 a.m., I heard something slide across the ceiling and stop right above the mirror. That night, I didn't sleep. I stayed on the couch with the TV on low, volume barely audible, just enough to keep me grounded. Around 2:50 a.m., I heard it again. Footsteps. But this time, they didn't pace. They circled around the perimeter of the ceiling, slow, measured, like something was tracing the outline of the room. Then came a thud, not heavy but sharp, like someone dropped from a short height and landed flat, right above me. That's when the ceiling started to drip again. But this time, it wasn't just water. It was thicker, darker, like old ink. One drop, two, then a steady pat. I looked up and saw the stain pulsing, like something was breathing behind it. Then I heard it. A faint tapping. Not from the ceiling, from the hallway. I stood up slowly and turned toward the mirror. I'd covered it earlier, remember, with a towel draped edge to edge. But now, I could see a faint outline moving behind the fabric, a shifting like someone pacing behind a window curtain. I didn't want to lift it. I knew I shouldn't lift it, but I stepped closer anyway. The moment I touched the towel, the tapping stopped. The apartment went completely silent. Even the building seemed to hold still. No pipes, no wind, nothing. I peeled the towel back just a few inches, and there, in the mirror, was me. But not quite. My reflection was facing forward. I had turned to the side. I moved. It didn't. It just stared. The lights above me flickered once, and then a whisper. Not from the glass, one from behind me. Cold breath near my ear. There's someone in my place. I spun around. Nothing. But in that half-second of silence, I felt something slide past me, like it had been standing there, watching, like I'd just taken something that didn't belong to me. At sunrise, I packed what I could fit in 2 duffel bags and walked out, left the keys on the counter, didn't lock the door. I didn't care. I just wanted out. Slept in my car for the next 3 nights, parked behind a 24-hour diner with the engine off. I didn't tell anyone what happened. How do you explain something like that? That your ceiling bled, that your reflection stopped being you, that something on the roof knew your name. A week later, the building office called me. I let it go to voicemail. The message was short. The woman's voice was flat, unreadable. She just said, "We saw the mirror was missing. That unit comes with a fixed wall mirror. We'll need to charge for that." I never took the mirror. That same day, I got a message on my phone from a number that didn't exist. It popped up while I was pumping gas, screen blinking twice before it faded. The message said, "It's above you now." That night, I stayed in a motel, ground floor, no mirrors. I covered the bathroom one with a towel anyway. But I kept thinking, what if it didn't stay in the apartment? What if it followed me? Not physically, but through the glass. Through the moment I looked into something that looked back. I haven't had a full night's sleep since. Any place I stay, I check the ceiling. I listen for footsteps that shouldn't be there. And most of all, I avoid mirrors. It was a small apartment complex on the edge of Tucson. 4 stories, brick walls faded to pink under the desert sun. I rented Unit 302. The place was cheap, barely furnished, always hot, but quiet. That's what I wanted. Quiet. I worked nights, slept through the morning, and kept to myself. The other tenants were ghosts. The real kind, I thought, meaning quiet neighbors. Retired couples, a kid or two. Mostly people who stayed inside and didn't bother each other. Perfect. The only unit above mine was 401. I knew someone lived there, or thought I did. I'd hear footsteps every now and then, slow and uneven, like someone walking in slippers. Furniture shifting, nothing loud, just old person noise. I imagined an elderly woman, maybe a widow. A few plants, a radio, routines. One morning, after a particularly rough shift, I heard something drop above me. A chair, maybe, or something heavy. I stepped onto my balcony, rubbing my eyes, and saw her standing on hers, right above. She leaned over the rail slightly and looked down, thin gray hair tied back, eyes soft but tired. And then she said, "Sorry about the noise. I don't sleep much anymore." Her voice cracked in the heat. I just nodded, told her it was fine. We didn't speak after that for a while, but I remembered her face. She looked like someone who'd been waiting for a long time. For the first few weeks, things were manageable. The building groaned sometimes. Pipes expanding in the heat, floors creaking, that kind of thing. Nothing unusual. I kept my schedule tight. Work nights, sleep from morning until early afternoon. Eat something cheap, repeat. The only sound that really cut through was from upstairs. Not music or TV, just movement. Furniture being dragged across old wood floors, slow footsteps back and forth. Sometimes I'd hear something like humming, too faint to make out the tune. I figured the old woman, I never learned her name, just had trouble sleeping. Maybe she rearranged her apartment to cope. I didn't blame her. The desert nights can get strange, too still. Every now and then, I'd see her again. Never on the stairs, never outside, only on her balcony. She'd just be standing there, staring into the dusk, not moving, not even blinking. Once I waved. She didn't wave back. But the next day, a potted cactus showed up on my balcony. No note, just sitting there, near the edge. I tried asking the maintenance guy about her, mostly to be polite. He just shrugged and said, 401's been there a long time. That was all he gave me. The more I thought about it, I'd never actually seen her enter or leave. No bags, no groceries, no mail. But every couple nights, the sounds returned. Always late, always above my bedroom. I started using earplugs. Didn't help much. The vibrations came through the walls. One night I woke up to the faint sound of something rolling, slow, heavy, like a marble dragged across concrete. And still, every morning, her light was on. The sounds changed. They weren't just footsteps anymore. Some nights it was a scraping, like something heavy being dragged from one corner of the room to another, and then back again. Other times I'd hear what sounded like pacing, quick, short steps circling the same area for hours, always from the same spot above my bed, always between 2 and 4 a.m. One night I decided to go up there, just to check. Maybe she'd fallen, maybe she needed help and didn't know how to ask. I climbed the stairs quietly, still half asleep, barefoot. The hallway on the 4th floor was darker than mine. Same layout but different feeling. Like the air hadn't moved in a while. I stood outside 401 and knocked lightly. Nothing. I waited. then knocked again, louder. Still nothing. I pressed my ear to the door, and that's when I noticed something strange. The silence wasn't real. It was holding itself, like someone or something was standing just inches away, breathing softly, not wanting to be heard. I stepped back. The doorknob had dust around it, no footprints on the doormat. The hallway light flickered once, then stayed off. When I asked the building manager the next day if the woman in 401 was okay, he blinked like I'd caught him off guard, then said, "You sure you saw her? I thought that unit was empty." I told him I'd spoken to her. He frowned, said he'd check the records. But I could tell he already knew something didn't line up. That night I watched her window from my balcony. The curtain shifted once, slowly, like someone had pulled it aside to peek out. But the lights never turned off. It was just after 3 a.m. when it happened. I woke up to the sound of something slamming above me. Not once, but 3 times, then dragging, like a bed frame scraping the floor, followed by the distinct crash of something glass shattering. The ceiling light above me flickered, then went out completely. I didn't even put shoes on. I ran straight upstairs, heart pounding, fists clenched with a mix of panic and anger. But when I got there, the hallway was dead quiet. The door to 401 looked untouched. Same dust on the knob. No light under the frame. Still, I knocked again, harder this time. Then again, and again. Nothing. I went downstairs, straight to the office. The manager was there, off shift, just grabbing paperwork. I told him everything. The noise, the woman, the balcony. He stared at me like I was speaking another language. Then he pulled up the file. Unit 401 had been vacant for almost a month. The tenant, Mrs. Elaine R., passed away 3 weeks ago. Heart failure. Alone in her apartment. They found her during a wellness check, still sitting in the armchair near the window. I told him that wasn't possible. I'd spoken to her, seen her, heard her apologize. He just looked down, said, "You're not the first to say that." Then he showed me the log. Her apartment hadn't been accessed since the coroner left. I went home in a daze. But when I stepped onto my balcony, something was waiting. A small piece of paper caught under the cactus pot she'd left weeks before. Folded once, handwritten, shaky, just 3 words. "Sorry, my fault." I didn't sleep that night, or the next. I kept the lights on, stayed off the balcony, and tried to convince myself I was exhausted, confused, wrong. But the sounds didn't stop. They changed. Less movement, more presence. The kind of stillness that pushes against your chest. And at night, it didn't sound like footsteps anymore. It sounded like breathing. Heavy. Just above my bed. Sometimes behind the wall. I stopped going near the windows. I stopped looking up. Then, it moved. The last night I spent there, I woke up with the sense that someone was in the room. Not standing, sitting, just out of sight. I stayed still, listening. The building was quiet, but inside my apartment I heard it. A whisper, barely audible, dry as dust. "It's quieter down here." That was enough. I packed at sunrise, left the key on the kitchen counter, and walked out. I didn't wait for a refund. I didn't call anyone. Just drove west across the state line and found a weekly motel with no upstairs rooms, no balconies, no mirrors. I never saw her again, but sometimes when I close my eyes, I hear furniture moving. From above, from behind. I lived, in a new development near East Riverside in Austin. Glass-fronted, elevator access, smart entry. Clean, modern, controlled. You know the type. The whole pitch was peace of mind. Insulation, minimal noise, younger tenants, digital everything. I'd been there 2 months. 3rd floor, Unit 3D, no problems. Until the night I woke up and heard it. At first I thought it was a dream, a faint cry, soft but urgent, like a newborn. That specific pitch that makes your chest go tight. I sat up in bed, confused. It was dark, nothing in my unit. I checked the hallway, empty. The window closed. Still, the crying continued, just beyond the wall next to the kitchen. It lasted maybe 40 seconds, then silence. The next night, same time. 3:12 a.m., same cry, same spot. I figured maybe someone had visitors, maybe a family member. I asked my neighbor, 3F. He looked at me like I was insane. Said he lived alone. No guests, no infants. He even laughed. Man, this place is dead quiet at night. He was right. It is, except for the baby that no one admits is here. I kept telling myself it was a one-time thing. Maybe someone left a TV on, or maybe sound was bouncing through the ventilation shafts. These buildings are efficient, but not perfect. I tried not to obsess. I got up early, made coffee, took the elevator down to the gym, answered emails, pretended everything was normal, and mostly, it was. The place looked normal. Stainless steel mailboxes, automated lights, neutral paint on every wall. Even the neighbors were pleasant in that forgettable big city kind of way. Quiet nods, polite distance. I never saw any kids, not once. No strollers, no diaper bins, no tiny shoes left outside anyone's door. The leasing office had a screen showing unit data, registered tenants per floor. I checked it one day while waiting for a package. 3rd floor, 6 units, all adults, no children. Definitely no infants. I even asked the woman behind the desk if any of the units were being renovated or used for temporary stays. She just shook her head. Fully leased, no movement. You're all set on 3D, right? I nodded, said nothing. But the crying kept coming, always at 3:12, never a second before or after. It would build slowly, rise, peak, then fade. Sometimes it was only a minute long, other times almost 5. I started recording it on my phone, just to prove I wasn't losing it. Some nights it didn't pick up, others, it came through perfectly, muffled, distant, but real. And before the crying started, there was always something else. A click, like a latch, or a door inside the wall. After the 5th night in a row, I started paying attention to the building itself. The layout, the space between units. I noticed something strange. In the hallway, the unit numbers went 3A, 3B, 3C, then mine 3D, and after that, straight to 3F. No 3E. I walked the length of the hall twice, measured it with my steps. There was space between my unit and 3F, like there should have been a door, but there was nothing. Just a blank section of wall, smooth drywall painted over like every other inch of the place. But the math didn't lie. There was a gap, and it lined up exactly with where the crying came from. I pulled up the building blueprint online. The public version listed all 6 units, including 3E. 1 bedroom, 620 square feet. Windows on the west side. I even found a floor plan diagram while it showed a door between 3D and 3F. But in real life, there was nothing there. That same day, I checked behind my kitchen wall. The sound always came from the corner behind the fridge. I pulled it forward and found a vent cover, sealed but dusty. I unscrewed it. Nothing inside. Just a narrow metal shaft leading back into darkness. But along the rim were faint marks. Tiny, curved, smudges. Like small fingers had pushed against it from the inside. That night, I listened again. 3:12. The click came first, then the crying. I put in earbuds and tried to sleep. But in the recording I made later, I heard something else. A voice, faint, layered under the cry. Just 2 words. It's dark. It was a Thursday when the sound didn't stop. I woke up again at 3:12 a.m. like clockwork, but this time, the crying didn't fade. It kept going. Sharp, strained, almost panicked. It didn't loop like before. It was real. I got out of bed and stood in the kitchen, right in front of the wall where the sound came from, my ears against the drywall, every hair on my arm standing up. It felt like something was just on the other side, inches away. I don't know what made me do it. Maybe I was sleep deprived. Maybe I just wanted it to stop. I raised my hand and knocked. 3 slow taps. The crying went silent. For a second I thought it was over, that I'd scared off whatever it was. But then, from inside the wall, 3 knocks, back at me. Same rhythm, same spot. I staggered back, heart frozen. Nothing in my brain could explain it. I hadn't imagined that. The wall had answered. It heard me, and it wanted me to know it was there. Next morning I went back to the leasing office, told the clerk I had a question about 3E. Her smile flickered for a second. Which unit? 3E, I said again. It's on the floor plan, between 3D and 3F. She blinked, then turned to her screen, scanned something. That unit's not active, she said. Hasn't been since we opened. So it exists? She paused. I'll print the blueprint for you. 5 minutes later, she came back empty-handed, said the file wouldn't load. I didn't push it. I already knew the answer. When I got home that night, there was something on the floor in front of my door. A tiny necklace, plastic beads, faded from heat. At the center, a charm with the letter E. I moved out 2 weeks later, told the office it was for work. Didn't ask for my deposit back, I just wanted out. I didn't even pack everything. Left the fridge, some furniture, a few dishes. But I kept the necklace. Don't ask me why. It's still in the glove compartment of my car right now. I think part of me's afraid to throw it away. The last night I spent in that apartment, I stayed awake. Lights on, no earbuds, no distractions, just listening. 3:12 came, no crying, no knock, nothing. But at 3:13, the fridge compressor kicked on, and under the hum I heard it. Not a cry, not a voice breathing, soft, wet, close, like something just inches behind the wall was resting, waiting, watching. I haven't lived in a building since. I stick to single-floor places, small cabins, sublets, Airbnbs with no shared walls, but sometimes, even there, I still wake up at 3:12, no matter the time zone. I don't set alarms. I don't need to. A few nights ago, I stayed in a motel outside Santa Fe. Cheap, old, nothing modern. 1 room, 1 wall, dead quiet. At exactly 3:12, I heard it again. Not crying this time, just a click. Like a latch being undone from the inside. I didn't check the wall. I didn't knock back. I sent this to 7:31 a.m. because I need someone to tell me I'm not the only one who heard it. Because I don't think Unit 3E was ever meant to be accessed, but it's still occupied. Thanks for tuning in to 7:31 a.m. tonight. If you're new here, like and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next signal.